Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of MMA Vision Analysis. This one, we're going to address Ali Abdulaziz's comments. That's Islam Makhachev's manager when he addresses Conor McGregor or the Conor McGregor situation. We're going to talk about the names that Ali Abdulaziz mentioned in terms of opponents for Conor. We're going to get into that a little bit more in this video. But before getting started, make sure to like, subscribe. Click that notification to get all of this that is new from this channel. Your channel, the one and only MMA Vision Analysis. Well, Ali Abdulaziz is not only a manager, but he is a well-known character in the world of mixed martial arts. Ali Abdulaziz is a lot of the times in the forefront of things in terms of capturing headlines. The guy can definitely provoke responses. I think we talked about that in this channel before. Ali Abdulaziz does the talking that most of the fighters that he managed don't do. He kind of does the talking for guys like Islam and not necessarily Habib, but bits that was the truth, bits and parts here and there. Obviously, he spoke about this very thing. He talked about how Umar Nurmagomedov, which is another fighter that he manages and he praises a lot, has a lot of praise for Umar Nurmagomedov. That's the younger brother of Habib Nurmagomedov. When Ali Abdulaziz talks about Umar, he talks about Umar with high praise, has nothing but good things to say about Umar, and he thinks that this guy is the next big thing. Will that be the case? Only time will tell. What I'm trying to say here is that Ali Abdulaziz is not short on opinions. He has many of them. I cannot recall being familiar with a fighter manager, the way that we are familiar with Ali Abdulaziz. Obviously, recently Ali Abdulaziz had an interview and he addressed a few things. Some of the things that we talked about here, how he thinks that Umar will become the best fighter on the planet, pound for pound. He thinks that he's going to overpass Habib Nurmagomedov in terms of record, and so many other things. And one of the things that he talked about, and he touched on that briefly, he didn't really go into the subject much throughout the interview. Maybe this was tops a couple minutes worth of back and forth between Ali Abdulaziz and the interviewer. When Ali was asked about Conor McGregor, he just plainly said that he does not care about the guy. And he also added that most UFC fans don't really care about Conor. Without adding a side note to that, he goes into mention possible opponents for Conor. And the name that he mentioned, with two names he mentioned Dan Hooker, and he also mentioned Justin Gaethje. We're going to talk about the Gaethje option in this fight. Well, first and foremost, what I would like to say before getting into the possibility of Conor facing Gaethje is that I really think that Conor was not very interested in fighting Michael Chandler. We spoke about it so much on this channel. We said that it's just an extremely bad matchup for Conor to come back to. And even if he was already warmed up, it's just a bad matchup. For a guy that hasn't won anything in 6 years, people want to criticize Chandler. Chandler, I don't care what anybody says, he's one of the best athletes in that division. I think collectively we can all agree on that. Chandler has the spirit that helps him in becoming the type of person that he is. It's not just the fighter that is Michael Chandler. It's the character. He's a very positive character. I think that's ultimately paying dividends for him, and I can explain how. Obviously, he was waiting on Conor McGregor for 2 years. The guy never showed up. But initially, Chandler, prior to the McGregor fight, his record in the UFC, aside from knocking out Dan Hooker in spectacular fashion, has not been the greatest. Obviously, he's lost like 3 fights in a row. And he was effectively out of title contention. But waiting around for Conor McGregor for 2 years helped Chandler, right? His patience helped him. I don't think he was aware that it was going to pay dividends the way that it did right now. To see all the top guys lose, the likes of Gaethje, the likes of Poirier, and we can even say Gamrot and so many other names that have fallen short, and Charles Oliveira, obviously. That's all within the time that Chandler was waiting for McGregor. So that helped Chandler in getting the Charles Oliveira fight, which is pretty much going to determine the number 1 contender for that title. Now, his patience, if you were to ask me, paid dividends. That's exactly what I think. And I think the UFC is doing Michael Chandler justice. I think he deserves the fight against Oliveira. Obviously, it's going to be a rematch, fascinating fight between the two. And that's going to determine the number 1 contender. Obviously, patience for Chandler pays dividends. Now, we're back to the guy that everyone's waiting for, right? And when I say everybody's waiting for, is right, the fans, when we look at it, we just want the entertainment collectively. We want to sit around with our friends in groups and just watch entertainment. It's the flavor of life. Sports and music and stuff like that. That's like the flavor of life. That's the color. That's what adds, to our lives color. And many of us are very passionate about this kind of thing. Obviously, not more passionate than the fighters themselves. But talking about passion, I just think that's exactly what's missing with Conor McGregor. He no longer has the drive that he had prior to making all of the monetary gains that he's made. Conor McGregor, 7 years ago, the one that faced Aldo, is not the same Conor McGregor that faced Poirier in the last fight. It's not the same Conor that lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov. It's not the same Conor that, obviously the second fight with Poirier, well, the third fight technically, but the second fight in the lightweight division, he also lost that fight. I don't think there was much of his wrongdoing, but he did come in with an injury to that fight. So, aside from Cowboy Cerrone, Eddie Alvarez, within the past 6 years, those are the only 2 wins for Conor, and he's lost a handful of times. Obviously, he's lost to Floyd. That was boxing. He's lost to Khabib. He lost to Nate. We can't really count the Nate one out. Let's say after the Nate fights, after defeating Diaz. Let's say starting from the boxing venture, he lost that. He beat Alvarez, and then he lost his title to Khabib Nurmagomedov. He beat Cerrone, and then he lost twice to Poirier. Obviously, I'm probably forgetting a fighter or 2 here and there. I think that's pretty much it. He hasn't fought a lot. That's the thing. And now, obviously, with Chandler being booked against Oliveira, leaves Conor without an opponent, at least momentarily. That's if and when this guy decides to come back to fighting in whatever format. We're talking about the UFC here, obviously, specifically the lightweight division. Ali Abdulaziz thinks that Justin Gaethje is a good matchup for Conor. Well, my reply to that is that if the guy didn't want to fight Chandler, what makes you think he wants to fight Gaethje? If you were to put Tony Ferguson in there, Kevin Lee, I don't even know if Kevin Lee or Tony Ferguson are still active fighters, then yes, Conor will fight because he's looking for a highlight. He's not looking to make more money. I can almost guarantee that. Obviously, that's going to be there, and I just don't think he's too much worried about the monetary gains. Now he's just looking for highlights and glory. He's looking for highlights and glory in a division where, it's just the level of competition when we're talking about the UFC. There is no time for chasing highlights. In all honesty, fighters are finishing fights on the ground by bear hugging a guy or girl for 4 or 5 rounds and winning fights that way. Look at what happened with Valentina versus Grosso. Look at what happened Mirab versus Dilashvili. So at the end of the day, what matters are the results. And if you try to go in there trying to make a highlight reel, it's not going to be against Justin Gaethje. It's definitely not going to be against Michael Chandler. Matter of fact, Conor was going to end up being the highlight reel. It's just the guy understands that he cannot lose again. He knows every time he steps in there, he's tarnishing that legacy by losing, possibly, right? So if he didn't fight Chandler, he's not going to fight Gaethje. I could be absolutely wrong. Obviously, he still has heart. That's why we are fans of Conor, because he has heart, he has passion. I just don't think he has the hunger that he did. And I don't think his body is what it was 7 years ago. And he's never had the cardio to begin with. And when we're talking about Chandler and Gaethje, we're talking about cardio machines. Very, very tough fights for Conor. And when Conor comes back, it's going to be a main event. It's going to be a 5-rounder. Conor doesn't do well in those. And I don't think he does well against Gaethje. This is just easy money. It's a slam dunk for these guys. And that's why I think this fight will not happen. I could be wrong. It would be fascinating to watch Conor versus Gaethje. But what are the chances of that even being any sort of competition? I don't know, but we're talking about a guy that has been inactive for a couple of years, broke his shin last time around. So, and he lost the fight before that, and he's known to gas out on 5-round fights, and he's known to gas out even 3-round fights, right? Why would Gaethje be a good idea? I just don't think that's the fight that Conor will be interested in. I could be wrong. This fight might actually happen. But he would probably be more interested in Dan Hooker before he'd be interested in Gaethje. I think, even though there are no easy fights for Conor to come back to, and that's why the guy hasn't come back yet. No disrespect to the Notorious One here. I'm patiently anticipating his return as well, just like any other fan of entertainment. We're just, like I said, here to be entertained, and sports and music are some of those things that are, I think, considered the music of, let's say, the color of life, the flavor of life, right? Entertainment. If you made it this far, I appreciate you for sticking around. Please let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe for more.